Hello, I'm Catherine Biarahanga. We start in Gaza, where the United Nations has been working to shore up UNRWA, its Palestinian refugee agency, which has seen several nations suspend funding after Israel claimed to have found proof that UNRWA staff took part in Hamas's attacks last October. Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been meeting representatives of more than 30 donor countries to discuss contributions. The UN says it's carrying out a thorough investigation, although it's added it has not yet received anything in writing from Israel. The UN's humanitarian coordinator for Gaza said it was vital for UNRWA to be able to continue with its work.
There's no substitution for the humanitarian role that is played in Gaza. We need to all ramp up, given the totality of needs and the scale and the complexity of the crisis, but there's no substitution. There is no way any organization can replace or substitute the tremendous capacity, the fabric of UNRWA, the ability and their knowledge of the population in Gaza.
The Palestinian representative at the UN has called for UNRWA to be defended because it is the only organization capable of helping the people of Gaza. Israel's government has accused UNRWA of being a front for Hamas, which several countries consider to be a terrorist organization. Meanwhile, the fighting continues in Gaza, with several explosions heard in the southern areas around Khan Yunis and Rafah. The Israeli army has confirmed it's been flooding tunnels in Gaza with seawater to try to neutralize the threat posed by Hamas and other militant groups. It said checks had been carried out beforehand to ensure that groundwater was not contaminated. Well, let's get more on this with our Middle East correspondent, Nick Beek. Nick, thank you for joining us on the program. Now, how likely is it that major donor countries will resume funding for UNRWA?
Good morning, Catherine. Well, certainly Antonio Guterres, the head of the United Nations, really will be hoping that this makes a difference. He's been pleading behind the scenes to these donors to think twice and resume their funding. Separately, top United Nations officials have been saying that if they don't get cash coming into the operation beyond the end of next month, so beyond the end of February, they won't be able to carry out the work that they've been doing in Gaza, and they warn that that could lead to a complete collapse of the humanitarian situation there. It is a difficult situation, of course, because America, for example, the biggest donor, has given something like $130 million to this particular United Nations organization for Palestinian refugees since October. But it is among the donors who have so far suspended the money. But the Americans are saying that this is a short-term thing, that really it is the only organization that's suited to looking after the some 2 million people in Gaza who they say desperately need assistance.
And Nick, the UN talking about carrying out a thorough investigation. Israel still talking about some of the allegations it holds against UNRWA. How is UNRWA going to go about rebuilding its relationship with all these donor countries?
Well, certainly the United Nations top officials say that the work is vital, and that the broader context here is that thousands of people are employed by this particular part of the United Nations, and that the work is absolutely essential. They point out that the roles of the people who are alleged to have taken part in the October the 7th atrocities have not really been unearthed yet. We know that evidence has been presented by the Israelis. President Netanyahu saying that this is proof, really, that beyond any sort of ceasefire that may happen in Gaza, that this organization, UNRWA, shouldn't play any part in Gaza in the future. That's something that we've been hearing has been rejected quite vehemently by some of the top United Nations officials.
Thank you very much. That's Nick Beek, our Middle East correspondent in Jerusalem.